Nope. Okay. So, Sorrel, could you just continue, please?
So I was doing that, and I was trying to see if I could replicate it in some way last semester, but we were only using WebEx. We were advised very strongly not to use Zoom, and I just thought, right, forget it. I'm just going to use WebEx. And then, of course, it didn't work. I had people, they couldn't, I was trying to see if they could link up with an old school friend over the phone and record it. It was just way too complicated. Only about 30% of a class could do that. So then I started getting people just to record monologues to me, just to talk to me. So they were giving audio files. Again, most of it was unscripted. I could tell if it was scripted, but I gave them a very clear explanation. You're not going to lose points if you stumble, if you make mistakes. And even though they were kind of embarrassed, they got into it. Most of them did it. But I thought your idea, oh, that makes it that bit more personal. Maybe they'll get more into it, and it'll make them walk outside, because a lot of them are just stuck inside the whole time. So that's why I like the idea.
A side benefit of it was the fact that they had a chance to go outside. But there are a few words about that. But Patrick, there he goes. Okay, it's okay.
Earring, sorry.
No problem. But the same question to you. Where did you see it? What did you like?
I don't remember what, it was one of these sessions earlier in the week, and you brought it up as an aside. You were just you were managing someone else's presentation. You were doing the Zoom hosting. And you mentioned this, and I do a presentation class where I have formal presentations, and that's quite different, but I also do little mini presentations in communication classes, and I've had an issue with them writing scripts and memorizing, and because the point, nothing wrong with memorizing a speech, but a speech is different than this. And what I liked about what you showed was it forced them, like you said, mentally now, in terms of English, that you've increased their cognitive load because now they're having to walk and move at the same time. But it also, things like the script and other problems I had I haven't done this yet, but it seems like it would address all of those issues and be fun. Like Sorrel was saying earlier, there's something about it that it looked fun.
I think the kids were having fun. Yeah. And before we go any further, Bill might be like going, what are you guys talking about? Because we actually go, Bill.
I mean, I kind of get the idea. I mean, what I've done in the past was I had bought a bunch of these little battery operated audio recorders. Mm-hmm. And I used to hand them out to my students, and I would give them a topic, and they just had to interview anybody they wanted to. If they interviewed like someone who doesn't understand English, they would have to ask them in Japanese and then say it in English later, kind of thing. So it wasn't really scripted, but it wasn't truly unscripted. I know they probably prepared some questions, but so this seems something along that line, but it sounds a little more interesting to me.
Just a technical thing. Let's see. Patrick, you use Zoom a lot, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can I make you co-host so you can let people in and I can attend to what I'm saying here? Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. You are now co-host, and you are going to get little tick-ticks, little sounds for when people are coming in. So I'm going to actually just show Bill what it is that I've shown everybody else, and from there we can start the conversation. But I want you to actually see the content that we're talking about.
Thank you.
Okay, this is one of my students, one of my better, maybe my best students. And of course, I'm not going to tell you her name or anything, but this is the basic assignment. You go outside, and I know I'm not playing it yet. You go outside, and if you can see me in my camera, they are told to hold their phone at eye level. So here we are at eye level, okay? They are told to hold their phone approximately 60 degrees or so, because that's important for the actual angle. And I'll show you another video where they can show you their gestures. There's a very tight frame, but I still want them to gesture. And I want them to gesture with their free hand, and that's what she's going to do. And she's holding it properly. She's holding it to the side, which actually is a little bit more of a flattering angle for most people, because you can imagine the difference between putting your phone right here, you know, like where most people put it, and to the point where you can barely see the edge of your chin or the top of your head. Very unflattering. And girls like this angle because it's flattering. They are to speak while they are walking. That is the big catch here. That's why it's called a walking selfie video. And if you've never actually learned a second language, you have no idea how it is, how hard it is at this level. What is this, B2, maybe B1 on the Selfie scale, to be able to do a normal physical activity while you're trying to process the second language. So it's quite a challenge. Moreover, because they're walking, it is much harder for them to actually read any notes or to concentrate on memorization. If they were good at memorization back in junior high school, they're going to start considering giving it up because I'm constantly encouraging them. You know, you sounded like a stiff robot in that last totally memorized video selfie. Why don't you just give it up a bit and just go for the fluency exercises that we're doing in class? Okay, that's enough talk from me. I'm going to skip this ahead because that's where she says her name and her student number, and let her talk for, oh, geez, I forgot. That's such a Zoom newbie thing to do. I got to turn the sound on. Sorry about that, everybody. Thing to note here is that she's almost perfectly fluent when she's sitting down at the camera, and when she's talking to me, when she's talking to other students. And it is much harder for her to speak fluently when she's walking. I've never asked her, was that hard for you to do that while you're walking? But the evidence is clear, at least to me, because I know what she's like in her normal class. And it's a lot of things. She's trying to remember what it is that she might have prepared for this. And she's trying to process that while she's trying to not stumble on the rocks in her courtyard. And that, by the way, it's another thing. I found out only after a student told me, Mr. Cruz, you know how you tell us to go out in the street and walk around and do this? I said, yeah. Well, actually, Mr. Cruz, that's illegal, you know? And I go, what? Yeah, it's illegal now in Japan to walk around while you're staring at your phone. And I go, holy cow, really? And yeah. So that's why I did mine in my courtyard. And I go, oh, wow. And I had to start apologizing to all the kids saying, okay, let's delete that video evidence of your illegal activity. Or at least trust me that I'm never going to let that out into the open air. So you tell them, I want you to walk around in your room, find a little circle path that you can walk around in your room, okay? Or around in your house, of course, or in the courtyard, or in a park, or in an empty, unused parking lot. But if you're on a pedestrian path or on the streets, that is illegal. But in these other areas, it is quite it is not illegal to do that. But a minimum, like for example, if it's raining, yeah, just walk around inside your room or walk around your 6 tatami mat, and just be careful, don't stub your toe or anything like that. The gesturing that you saw was by her was a little bit more than it was by other students, because she's actually a very, very good student, very, very conscientious and earnest. And it is hard. It's hard for these kids to even figure out that you're not getting it when I say, don't put your camera right up to your face. And that is one of the ways that I can tell they're cheating.
Jose, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think someone has Carmela has a question.
Oh,
sorry.
Carmela.
Could you clarify before you go on, what did you say was illegal and what is not illegal?
Okay, you are not allowed to be on any of the public roads, roadways, or pedestrian lanes using your phone while you walk. Now, I don't know if that's a Fukuoka thing.
Is that talking or looking?
I wouldn't even, you shouldn't even be encouraging these kids to have their phones in their hands. That's the safest recommendation for you as an instructor. Remember, if these kids are under your tutelage and you're telling them go out in the street and take a selfie video, and they get caught by some over earnest cop, they're going to say, it was my teacher that did it. And you're in trouble.
Okay.
So just tell them, do not do this in pedestrian lanes, certainly not on a crosswalk, butthead, not in any streets. So your courtyard, your room, a park, an empty parking lot. And the empty parking lot is bottom on the list because that's actually private property. It's somebody else's private property. But certainly a courtyard, okay? And certainly inside your room.
Okay, good, thanks.
It's probably good.
Okay.
Where was I? I remember now. Okay, well, let's start from a good point. Gesturing is really important. That's one of the things that I tell them. Holding your camera is important. And in the chat, I have uh, made available for download the set of notes that I wrote in Pages. I'm sorry, it's only Macintosh Pages. Carmela, can you shut off your mic, please? Or
It
who
was
was
off.
somebody's mic? Linda, I bet it's you. Linda, can you shut off your mic,
Sorry,
please? That's okay.
I didn't know it was on.
Check. Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can recognize Linda's air conditioning in her office. Okay. So, oh yeah, that's it, cheating. So one reason they're holding their camera up here is not because they didn't understand your instructions. It's because they're holding a series of notes. They're holding notes, and they got to be able to read it. And you can follow their eye, you can track their eyes, and you can tell that they're reading their notes. But just because their eyes are not directly into the lens, don't think that they're reading. What they're doing is they're watching their image here, but the lens is over here. And that will make their eyes look like it's off by just a bit, and you might think they're reading. They're not. They're actually trying to take your instructions and say they're looking at the lens. Bill.
Have you ever seen the teleprompter apps that will actually show you large letters and move as you say the words?
I have, but one of the principles that I discuss often with Patrick about this is this is why it's not Flipgrid. Okay? This is why it's just a phone and it's just a phone's camera. Is I do not want to make it complicated for these kids when I tell them, okay, go download that teleprompter app.
No. Sorry.
Oh, so they might cheat by doing that.
Yeah.
No, I have not seen it, but I think that's the least of their cheating problems, because that would mean that they're actually reading really well. So in a sense that I'd kind of be happy that they actually went to all that trouble. But I would, if I found out that they were doing that, I would almost say, yeah, well, that's kind of better than just, yeah, that's kind of better than writing it on notes. But yeah, they could, and you can't stop everything, but you can do this. This is why a walking selfie is also really good. So one kid was trying to hold an entire coiled notebook in her hand. An entire coiled notebook in her hand. And unfortunately, it was a very windy day. So guess what flew up into the camera view? and I keep telling these kids, do yourself a favor and watch the video before you upload it. You can find out if the microphone was working. You can find out if your hair was in your mouth or whatever. And you can find out if you had made any mistakes, shall we say. And they don't. They just want to get it over with. So I keep telling them, you'll find in that document that a lot of what I'm saying is about their preparation. There's very little about their English, although sometimes some kids, I just couldn't understand what they were saying because their grammar was so bad. And sometimes I would make that mention, but it wasn't a big deal to me about their grammatical mistakes. But just getting back to the whole format, because you can do this on Flipgrid, okay? You can do this on whatever else is out there that's kind of similar to Flipgrid. But the reason why I do it the way I do is to keep the kids from me asking the kids to go learn Flipgrid. Now, apparently Flipgrid is actually very, very intuitive. That's fine. But if you guys or anyone here went to the session with Rab Patterson's Superstars, his high school kids, I know John was there and Bill was there. And one of the things that they said, both at that session and another session where I earlier met them, pardon me, was that they wish that the teachers didn't just tell them to go use that app because it's intuitive. It'll be okay. You don't need instruction from me. Their own psychological fear, and I know this because I teach computing to people who buy computers with my advice. There's a psychological fear that makes you think, I can't do this even before you try. And these kids have enough to think about. I want them to concentrate on English. They know how to use this, and they think they don't know how to use Flipgrid, and I don't want that barrier. So they take the camera, okay? I will teach them how to use OneDrive because I find that I don't have to teach all of them how to use OneDrive or whatever is the university sanctioned file upload system. I'm very lucky. I use Moodle at both of my universities, so I don't have to learn two different LMSs. But one university does not allow, because it's such a rickety old Moodle server that it sits on, they only allow 20 megabyte uploads per assignment. Ridiculous. You can't really do much with that except maybe a 1-minute walking video. So we're allowed to use OneDrive. So I have to teach them OneDrive, but I don't mind teaching them that because they need to know how to do that for their other classes anyway, because it's the university sanctioned system. And quite conversely, a lot of these kids already know how to use OneDrive because it's the university sanctioned file system. They need to do less because they don't need to do Flipgrid. The walking aspect of things puts in a physical hurdle to a cognitive load. To the cognitive load that they had. There were a few people here who came in after I showed the video. So let me show the video, a sample video of what I get these students to do. It'll be in the middle of things. This is one of my students. Take note of how she held the phone. Take note of how she framed the phone, how she was gesturing, and how she was speaking. And we'll talk after I come back from this again. I actually penalized her because I didn't want to, because like she's such a good kid, but I penalized her and other kids for touching their faces, because the other parameters that I said was, I know you're walking, and I don't care if you're just walking around in a t-shirt and shorts, but I want you to pretend that this is actually a presentation at a company. You do not touch your face that much during a presentation. You do not show your nervous habits or all of the things that we know from having taught presentation to these kids. All you have to do is just translate the idea that you're going to ask them to walk while they do it. And you don't disallow memorization. That would be a little bit hard for some kids, but you disencourage it. You tell them you'd sound so much better if you just let yourself make mistakes, so that then you don't sound like a robot when you're speaking, because this is not what I want you to do. And you can also tell I don't know if you guys would agree with me, there is a memorization voice, and then there is a reading voice. And all of you know what I mean, right? So that's another way that you can tell when somebody's cheating. They sound like they're reading something from a script. You can see their eyes move over to the other side of the page, right? And then memorization has its own intonation, has its own movements, has its own facial tics. And it's worked really well. And how I implemented it, if I can find that window, there it is, was using it on my Moodle assignment site. Now, this is just a sample from a class. It's called Speaking and Writing. And it's designed by the university to tackle both their writing skills and their speaking skills. And at first, I was really puzzled. What am I going to do with this in ERT? And then I realized, why not just do what I always did before? Divvy it up, every other week writing, every other week speaking. And writing was very simple. Basically, we take a VOA article, which is very easy to read because it's a reduced vocabulary set, and they write on it. And they're marked primarily on the content quantity, not the quality. Quality is what we're there to learn. Quality is what we're there to fix. So I correct your mistakes, but you are marked by the amount that you can write in 30 minutes. Much easier to monitor in a classroom, because there I know that they're just writing their best and all they have is their dictionaries. But I put them on the honor system for this because it was just healthier for them and healthier for me. And I didn't want them to keep their cameras on while they were writing. I just felt really horrible the first time I tried that. And I said, you know what, guys, we're not going to do that. We're not even going to do that in the test. So I just let them write. So there's the 30-minute writing sample there. Okay. We were doing Fiona the dog, which is another video that we watched, and then they wrote about it. And then what we did was we did a video based on what they saw in that other video that they watched for their writing assignment. So what they did in their first video was based on the video that they saw. And from then on, okay, we were doing, where is it here? There it is, VOA article. So they read this, they wrote on it. In the next week, they would do it based on what was done here. And so on and so forth. They switch back and forth. And one of the first things that I did, and I'll show you this just because I reposted it later on, okay, was I gave them an example of me doing it. And I think it's important for you to do this for yourself. So let's watch this. I'll try to make it a bit bigger here. But this is me showing them this is what I want. So for the first bit is my instructions. And then for the second bit, it was an example of what I would expect their level of speaking to attain to. So I am taking a walk down past my house up towards the junior high school that is just at the end of this hill. And I wanted to show you what it looks like when you're actually doing a video while you're walking. I want you to make sure that in your walking video, you can see your hands. Okay, one hand will be holding up your phone, and you have to do this on your phone. One hand will be holding up your phone, the other one should be gesturing. I want you to do this in one take, okay? I want you to be able to do this now, either on your microphone, or if you feel you can do it just without a microphone, that's fine too. But I want you to stop depending on your notes and memorizing your stuff all the time. We're going to get pretty bright here because the sun is about to come. And maybe for the next little bit, I'll just tell you something I've been thinking about recently. And that was me and what's going to happen in the future after COVID. That took up the last minute. The assignment can also vary by length. You tell them, oh, well, you know, it's your first assignment. Try to hit something between 1 minute and 2 minutes. Then it would go up by length. You can also vary the amount of time that they have to prepare it. The first assignments, I gave them basically the entire week until the next class. Then it started getting narrower and narrower. 5 days, 3 days, 2 days, and then the final test was a 24-hour submission period. With a 3 minute to 4 minute requirement for the actual video length. The videos were required to be one take, as I said. No cuts, no edits. Yeah, Patrick.
So you got a question from Timmy about how they were uploaded?
Okay.
Timmy, do you want to speak to that or?
Okay, I'll start, Timmy. They were uploaded in 2 different ways because I work at 2 different universities. One university, as I was showing on my Moodle, oh, shoot, I forgot. I got to hit the share screen button. On my Moodle, okay, so this particular university had to have their, even though we were on Moodle, Moodle would not allow anything but a 20 megabyte upload per upload. And that means that anything past about 1.5 minutes was getting really iffy. Might not be uploaded, might be uploaded depending on so many things. But we did have a OneDrive system. So I had to show them, I had to take like half an hour in class. We were all testing out how to do OneDrive. And I had a bit of a flub too, because it was my first time with OneDrive and learning OneDrive's idiosyncrasies for passing on an editable folder link. Had me do one great big flub up, and I had to apologize to the kids for that. So make sure that you know what you're doing. But this university, the kids had to send it up to OneDrive. At another university, much, much easier because their Moodle system was much more robust. You could do 500 megabyte uploads per person per upload, no problem at all. 0.5 gigabyte, I mean, that's an entire 1.5 hour Zoom recording. So that was easier. This wasn't so bad after the kids got used to it. Basically, this one was OneDrive. You might end up like Bill, maybe doing it over Dropbox. Maybe your favorite is Google. If you got Moodle at your school, try to ask for a greater upload range. Probably a 3 or 4 minute video. The ones that I saw coming in were probably around tops 60 megabytes. And that's because the kids didn't take my advice for, hang on. I'll see if I can find it for you here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to do a search for iPhone. Yeah, there it is. Okay, now I can do a search, or not a search, another screen share. There is a way on an iPhone to get the iPhone's original movie settings, which are set defaulted to 1080p, which is basically high definition video, to play at a much smaller size. And I made a video for them. By the way, as a personal habit, when I instruct people, and a lot of people do just flat graphics, just pictures with arrows and circles and stuff. I taught myself how to use videos for instructional aids as opposed to pictures. And this is what I did to show these kids. I'm gonna have to make this a bit bigger. So how to make your iPhone video smaller. So let's play this. Go to settings, scroll down to camera, and do it in Japanese. Scroll down to camera. Okay, now you see where it says Satsue, video Satsue. Choose 720, close it, and now from now on, all of your videos will be in 720. You guys got that? Good, thank you very much. And I can give you that video too. That's my video, so that's not a problem at all. But that helps if you've got a requirement from the universe as keep your total uploads down for the semester down to, like, I don't know, 50 gigabytes, Mr. White, 30 gigabytes, Mr. Pello. You can use that trick, and the kids will turn in, like, literally, they go from 1080 to 720. The same video is 1/4 the size because it's 1/4 the size. Okay, let's open this up for questions. None? Are we done here, folks?
What was your feedback? Did you give them a grade sheet, a rubric? I know Moodle has a grade book in it, but I'm just wondering, how did you, because it seems like a lot of the comments you made about the students is less rubric friendly and more individual comments. So I'm just curious.
I eventually ended up with a rubric in my head. And the rubric in my head is very similar that I use for presentations. So you could start with any presentation rubric that you have, and then maybe make a couple categories or add a couple lines to existing categories about watching the camera. Okay. Now, of course, now I'm going to speak to you as a student. You have to watch your feet. I don't want you stumbling. That'll be like amusing to me for a couple of seconds, but I don't want you hurting yourself. You have to watch your feet. You have to watch the road. But I want you to, this is the way I described it. Pretend I am walking right next to you, and we're having a conversation on this topic, and occasionally you look in my eyes. Pretend that there is a conversation partner and you're taking a walk with them, and just once in a while, you just want to say, Jose, that's a really good point, but I kind of disagree. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So pretend that there's a conversation partner. Your conversation partner happens to be this phone that you're holding in front of your face. And little things like that. The gesturing, you can't make them make wild gestures. The gestures that are outlined in textbooks where they say, okay, now hold your hand above your heart to show empathy. Show your hand so that you can make a fist to show energy and stuff like that. Tailor it and tell them, you have this little window to show me your gestures. And you can increase that window by practicing with your phone so that the angle that you hold it at can see this kind of forearm. By the way, another one. If you think they're cheating still too much, put in a requirement where they have to pass the phone from right hand to left hand at some point during the 2 minutes, and back to the right hand for some point in the 2 minutes. That'll help prevent a little bit of note carrying. Other parts of the rubric, their walking speed. Some of these kids just barely shuffle 5 meters over the next 3 minutes because it is really hard. It is a huge cognitive load to actually walk while you're speaking in your second language. What else? So let's take a look at the notes that I was making for them, okay? And I would start with things like, I like your ideas, but next time try to practice more. And I tried to limit my main point to them about how you can improve. But just listen, give yourself some time to practice. I can tell you did this. Their ultimate deadline was midnight on a certain day. I can tell you did this late at night, and you go, oh shit, I got Cruz's video maker. Oh, whatever, let's go do it. And you sounded like it, you looked like it, and you gave me a video that looked like it. So practice this, okay? Now some kids practice their heads off to the point, gotcha, Patrick, to the point where they were actually over-practiced. So you start to learn how to see these once you see enough of these videos. Patrick, go.
You've got Bill White and then Bill Pillow with questions.
Mr. White.
I just want to know, do you allow them to use selfie sticks? I have a fair amount of students who still use them. So I was just wondering, would that be considered wrong or not?
Okay, imagine selfie stick, okay? Selfie stick here.
Yeah.
You can see the selfie stick image. There is just enough room here for them to be tempted to duct tape a set of notes. Now, they really did think they were going to get away with, oh, say, you can't see my head. They really did think they were going to get away with, like, their eyes flicking down or their heads looking down while they try to keep a fake smile on the camera. They think they can get away with it. So
Well,
after
I
I saw
know that, but I mean, I was just wondering if a kid used it or not, if was it allowed or not, that's all.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I thought, you know what, not this kid, but I could see potential for cheating there. So I'm going to let this kid go just exactly. I would mark them exactly as they did mine, because I never said no selfie sticks. But from there, I said no selfie sticks. So I think even on here being another place where I'm looking, by the time we got to the final test, was it here, fourth period? No, it was fifth period. So let's go to fifth period. I made a much tighter set of rules for what they had to follow for the final test. So yeah, there it is. Okay, so let me share this now. So on Moodle, I made another, and I warned them in advance that these rules would be changed. Do not use notes. Do not use a selfie stick. And of course, no Japanese. Do not stop walking or talking. And they don't stop walking because they want to relax. It's because the cognitive load is so great that they forget to walk. Literally, they stop and they start forgetting. Or they stop talking because they see a really nice car coming down the street. And that note in there is needs to improve focus or energy. You make sure to properly frame the video. Sometimes these kids are trying to cheat, and because they're not looking at the camera angle starts to fall because they're not looking at it, they're looking at their notes, and I can't see their face. They do it late at night, and they don't even bother to check to make sure there's enough light so that I can see their face, and they get a very low grade from that. I can't see your eyes, dude. Use only one hand to hold the camera. Gesture with the other hand. Show your free hand. I want to see that free hand all the time, or at least what constitutes all the time. Yeah. Is that good, Bill?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, thank you.
The next, Bill Pello had a question as well.
First, just a comment with selfie sticks and duct tape. You guys have some MacGyver students.
Hey.
In one of my classes, obviously before COVID, I've got a class set of little iPod Touch, and in one of the classes they have to come up with their own conversation based on the textbook. It's someone meeting someone at the airport, introducing their colleague, asking, can I help you with your bag? And, you know, our car's parked this way. So there's a lot of gestures involved in this conversation. And I really liked it for this low-level business class. So I'd give them I'd give a couple of these iPods out and have them make a video of it. So like these three people have to make their video, and a different group has to record them to help them, and then they just switch roles. But what I could see in the classroom was behind the kid holding the camera was another kid holding the book. And,
hey, production value.
It's like seeing the boom mic come down.
Not someone else holding the book over here and holding the book over here. So I think what you have to listen for, make sure they do it on gravel, so you don't have the 3 sets of crunch, 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 people walking backwards with books.
You do end up becoming a little bit of an audio video forensic detective at a certain point, because you start noticing, because you see enough of these videos that you become really good at noticing these differences. Yeah, you do, Bill. And I would have to sit here. I got you, Patrick. I would have to sit there and show you all of these notes that I made, and they're not categorized. They were very much a flow of work schedule. I wrote them down as I went. I tried to categorize them at the end. At the very bottom were the ones that I used for the test videos, my assessment for the test video. So if you download that, you can take a look at it, and we can start a dialogue even after this session is over in 20 minutes. Sorrel, this whole session was made just for you, so I want to get your comments.
Can you hear me? I have a quick question.
Go, Timmy.
Sorry, my video is not working.
No problem, dude.
And this is also for all the other teachers that probably taught online this past semester, if you guys could chime in. Some of the classes that I've taught, one in particular, there was one explanation, and this is a logistical question. Some of the students are on limited data plans. So in terms of uploading, there were problems with that. And in terms of actually spending a certain amount of time online, let's say if it's 1 comma, at the end of probably the 3rd or 4th week of that month, they would start turning their cameras off. And so that, I just wanted to say that that might be a problem with some students, you know. I mean, if they had Wi-Fi, the family Wi-Fi, that'd be fine. But I wanted to ask if some of you guys had encountered that problem. And that would, of course, be if they reach the limit of maybe 6 to 5 gigabytes, they throttle down. So it affects both the audio and video quality. So what's your take on that?
So let me just answer that one first before anybody else comes in. It's a good point, Timmy. And it actually argues to these video assignments. If you are doing Zoom, synchronous work, and that's what you feel is best for your style and for the students, it's hard for me to disagree because that was my idea at the beginning too. But if you limit these video assignments and the giving out these assignments to maybe 10 minutes on a synchronous class because you've gotten the kids used to your routine, said, hey, everybody, nice to meet you. Okay, let's just make sure we know what our video assignment is. It was on last week's reading. And by the way, I've got to tell you, okay, I may as well tell you right now because it's on my mind. Last week's reading was done as last week's reading and writing assignment, okay? If you don't have a writing assignment to go with, then no writing. But last week's reading assignment was what it was, and you treated it the way that you do. But you take that reading assignment and you make it the content base for the video. But if you're not careful, these kids will basically just take a lot of sentences from that and move them around and just say it again. So what you do, like for example, she was talking about robots, and we did an article on robots in healthcare and stuff like that. Now, when I realized a lot of these kids were doing that, even her, probably subconsciously, because, you know, this is the way these kids are taught, I figured, how do I beat that? And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a question that you have to answer that is related to the topic, but does not have any matching content within the article. And I don't reveal that question until the day of the video assignment. So, for example, on that robots thing, it was talking about robots in healthcare and robots in things like restaurants and stuff. So the question was, do you think robots will be teaching your children? So nothing at all was mentioned about education in the article, but it makes them think, makes them realize that, yeah, they can be maids, they can be burger flippers. Could they actually teach my children? And that was what they were supposed to do as 2 or 3 minute videos. Now that's an aside. Getting back to Timmy's question, the good thing about these videos is that to record a video does not actually require this thing be on the internet. It can be done with an iPod Touch. So when they're actually recording the video and thinking about the video and making the video, producing, you know, their context, they are not online with you in a synchronous session. You take that 10 minutes of the synchronous class. Hey, everybody, you still got your readings? Okay, well, here's the question for today. Does anyone have any questions about how they're going to be doing on their phones? Anything left over? Everybody's good? Okay, well, that's it for the class. I'm looking forward to your videos in 3 days. Don't forget your deadline. See ya. Your synchronous session is down to 10 minutes or so. And the rest of the time, they can spend on the phone. Nice clean video. The upload itself, because of the way even during an upload, there are actually compression strategies being done between the uploader and the downloader, is maybe just the minimum amount of bandwidth that it takes to send that video up to Moodle. Literally only about 30 megabytes, not the 300 megabytes that they would if they were in a synchronous session. So it actually works in that favor. But now Timmy's question was to everybody. So the question was, how do you handle the problem of phones or other students who are on limited data plans in their rooms? Anybody else want to tackle that?
If they're on Wi-Fi, then uploading is no problem. If they're at home and they're uploading on their home system, then they're not using the data plan.
Yeah, but that's what Timmy was asking. What about those kids who don't even have that luxury? Because I do know a couple of my kids were not even on that luxury. Bill.
I often tell them, go to like McDonald's or a lot of places have a lot of free Wi-Fi in even convenience stores. I've been in some, like, you walk in and Lawson says free Wi-Fi, Family Mart says free Wi-Fi. I'm like, so I think they could probably find something close to home. In most cases, I mean, depending where they live, of course, but.
And in that case too, think about it. It is, okay, so let's say your only Wi-Fi hotspot is the Family Mart down the street. Now with Cruz's assignment, the video upload assignment, it's not that big a deal to just sort of surreptitiously stand in front of the potato chips and upload the video assignment from the convenience store while you're surreptitiously looking at the potato chips. But surreptitiously looking at potato chips while you're trying to do a synchronous session with a teacher, that's really not going to work. So
yeah, I'm talking the upload only. I'm not talking about any of them. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Well, the session could be done at Starbucks. You go buy yourself a tall one, and you sit there and you do your synchronous session.
And McDonald's is 300 yen for 6 months or a year.
Yeah. Okay.
There are many options.
I don't know if either of you have forgotten how I teach my classes. If you remember my playlist, okay, yeah. You'd look like a crazy person trying to do that with a phone at Starbucks. And for those of you who have not yet seen my playlist, Mary, do you have my video playlist at hand that you could put into chat? I'm a little busy right now, but I would like to.
Yeah. Here, let me look for it. Yeah, I do have it.
Thank you very much. So back to my original question. Timmy, Patrick, go.
I just had a request. You gave us your video feedback comments. Could we also have the final rules that you just showed us a few minutes ago? Because those were very concise about what to do and not to do. Eventually, not right now.
Too late.
And I think you were going to get back to Sorel and see if.
Tell you what, Sorel, why don't you, Bill, can I get you to hang for a second? Because I asked Sorel something just a little bit ago, and I'm going to ask her to answer that question while I get you these. Okay, Sorel, why don't you go ahead?
Sorry, what did you ask me? Is it when I was opening the door? Sorry,
Could
there was
be.
a delivery, right, and there was nobody at home to answer the door.
I feel your pain. This morning, I was rushing around trying to get ready for the first session, and I go take a shower, and what shows up at my door but a case of beer, and I'm all soaped. Like it's the worst moment. I'm all soaped out. I got soap in my eyes, and I'm trying to tell the guy, just put it down. And he says, I can't hear you. And it's like, okay, whatever, get the towel. So I understand. No, the question was, so now that you've seen what it is that I wanted to show you and heard a little bit more of an explanation, this whole session was supposed to be just you and me. So, what do you think? What are your questions? What do you want to know?
Oh, no, actually, no, you've answered lots of them. One of my, well, I had many nightmares last semester, like I'm sure lots of people. I didn't see it all as a positive learning curve. Some of it I saw as just a health hazard, some parts. And one of the greatest things was about the grading. The time it took as my students, like 30 or so students in a communications class, sending me these audio files. And if each one is the shortest a minute, and then going up to 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 minutes. And if I've got 4 classes like that, and then I've got another 6 classes of other stuff. So it all started getting a bit slightly hairy on the grading marking front. And that's why I was wondering about the feedback. If you gave this very detailed feedback to each person each time, and if you had I had 100 and something students doing these audio files, because I got a bit swamped. I couldn't keep up at one time and ended up because I was trying to mark my writing classes as well. I mean, it's just so much. I just
Right. Okay.
found it much more time consuming.
I'm going to give you my answer. So I really do think that the idea of walking selfies and putting in that whole walking dimension was a godsend for me. It really helped me out. The kids liked it, and eventually, at first, they were a little bit uncomfortable. But I wish I could show you other videos, but don't have permission for all of them. But there were kids that went from like really, really nervous and really, really suspicious of it, and eventually they started loosening up, and you would get true confessions sometimes, which is really kind of touching. A couple kids at the end of their videos, their final test videos, actually took like 20 seconds of the video to say, "Thank you, Mr. Cruz." I don't know if they were sucking up to me or not, but it was still kind of nice. Yeah. And I would much rather mark that than some friggin' multiple choice test. Yeah, I'm being recorded. Hi. Yeah, I said that. Yeah. Yeah, it worked really well for me. Bill.
I didn't have my students walking, but I did have the students at my part-time job make an introduction video. And I just told them, do it any way you want to. And one of the videos was really sweet. She showed what's that little instrument called, the Japanese harmonica, ocarina?
Ocarina. Ocarina.
Ocarina. And then she played the theme song for Totoro. It was fantastic.
A couple kids would show me, you know, their collection of baseball gloves, and I said, "Okay, that was really cool. Could you maybe make a complete sentence next time, though?" That was a nice opening to him going, "Oh, you're right. All I said was Mizuno, roarings good. Number 2 Mizuno, no good." And then just, I'm like, yeah, I understand. Try to make a complete sentence next time. Mary.
I tried your walking videos and worked great, except for one boy who refused to take off his mask and then held up his camera down at his hip and says, "Oh, I'm so scared to be doing this. Oh, he's doing it at 5 in the morning. There's nobody on the street." It was, did you encounter anybody like that?
Yeah, I encountered it after one of my kids told me, "Mr. Cruz, you're telling me to do something illegal." So let me tell you that story. You probably weren't. Were you here when okay, so it's an interesting story. I'm telling these kids, "Oh, just go outside and take a walk and, just walk down the street and make a video." And one of the kids comes to me later on and says, "Mr. Cruz, I don't know. Did you know that that's illegal?" And I go, "It's illegal? Yeah, you're not allowed to actually use your phone while you're walking down the street." And I go, "Oh, just like you're not allowed, or you're not allowed, you're constantly being bombarded with sonic assaults about not using your phone while you're on the train platform. It's illegal, at least in Fukuoka." And so I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, kids." I made a public apology to everybody, but you can still do it in your room. You can still do it in your courtyard, as that girl was. That she's very lucky, lives obviously in a very well-to-do home, has a big courtyard. You can do it in a park. A park is not public streets, okay? Now, last on the list is an unused parking lot, but that's private property, so you don't want to recommend that if you can help it. But the holding the thing down at the hip, yeah, he didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
But you still tell him, "I understand. I'm going to let it go. Gotcha, Patrick. I'm going to let you go this time. But remember, I want proper framing." And you put that in your rubric. "I want proper framing." I got a phone call that I'm going to ignore. I want proper framing and all of the other things that I put. And I also put a screenshot in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't have time to like cut and paste it and put it into another document, but it was a screenshot. And of the notes that I gave in the Moodle to the final test. So yeah, I encountered the Mary, and it was after I realized that I'm asking them to do something illegal. Oh, and masks. I told them, "Okay, we got to go outside to do this. Please remember social distancing. I do understand why you're wearing a mask." And yeah, I thought, okay, yeah, some kid's going to take advantage of that because they're so shy about their face. But what are you going to do, right? Their health is more important than your class requirements.
On a note to that, Mary, I had a student that I got an email from the university, the special needs department. This student had something I'd never heard of, but they couldn't look at cameras or look at you directly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was a speaking class, so it was a bit of a challenge. I did a little research online, and what we ended up doing was they filmed for the Zoom classes, they used a mirror. They could look into the mirror, but in her brain, she couldn't look at the camera. She looked into the mirror and the camera looked into her. She went into her toilet and recorded her Zoom activity. I told her most of the time you can have your camera off, but some things we need to see each other. And she would record from the bathroom. And you could literally do videos. You know how if you watch TikTok, all the students record their videos through the bathroom mirror. You could literally you're still seeing them. In fact, then you'd see if there are any notes.
I was about to say, that's going to be my next thing, because we start not by walking, we start by standing. And a couple of kids were cheating. Yeah, they were using notes. Sorry, this is from Adam. So I'm going to ignore that too.
Adam.
It's just Adam. It's just my partner. Of course, they were using notes because they were sitting at their desk. And I thought, okay, how am I going to beat that this time? And I thought, okay, bathroom mirrors. You got to stand with the bathroom mirror either behind you, but I want to see part of your image in the bathroom mirror. And if they can actually still cheat while there's a mirror watching them, I'll figure a way around that too, eventually.
That's great.
Adam, by the way, the message I did glance at, it says, "Where are you?" So I sort of got to get going, but is there any pressing question? I will, you know this, I'm going to make myself available. I like this technique. I like my playlist. I like talking about this stuff, just as you guys like talking about the very special techniques that you have come up with. And I think that's what these sessions are all about. We have a venue for doing that, and I want you to consider that venue, at least for me, continues on OTJ, no matter we're synchronous or not. Ask me any questions that you have afterwards. Otherwise, I don't want to get any more stuff from my partner about slacking off and hanging around with you guys here as opposed to like looking after us.
Could I suggest that we give Jose a round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose.
And let me say that, Bill, I like your T-shirt.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jose.
It's a great T-shirt. Stand up. What does it say on it?
Yukon.
I want to before we go. Tonight, 8 o'clock, OTJ Social. Please come. Please have a couple drinks with us. Let's unwind.
I'm already on that, but okay.
And before we go, if you want to know how to get a pen application,
stop doing this because I have Australian friends. Australian friends have a different meaning for doing this.
That's why we do it.
That's right.
Actually, that's British. British don't do that.
And by the way, the session where I'm supposed to be is going to be excellent. I invite you to go there with me. Okay? But let's all go. Gotta go, guys.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.